Hey folks, welcome back to the podcast. It's episode 22 of the Deron Harris Podcast. I'm your host, Deron Harris. Welcome back, folks. Thanks for joining me. Today's episode is cut the shit. Let's cut this shit, y'all. Let's cut the shit. And what I mean by cutting the shit is scaling all the way down. You know, how to clean your life, how to cut back in many different ways. Just how to cut all the unnecessary shit out of your life. Just how to cut it out of there. You know, I've had to do a lot of cutting, like recently. You know, me and my wife both, if you didn't listen last week, we moved into an RV full time. Yeah, go back and listen to the episode. Which there will probably be more episodes about us living in this RV coming in. I mean, a lot of it will probably be that now because we go through a lot. It's definitely a solid change from what we were doing before. So we are excited, but still scared, still a little skeptical, but absolutely optimistic. So stay tuned. First, though, what I really want to do is what I've been doing lately, the past few podcasts, I've been doing mental health checks. You know, not only just myself, but I'm asking you also, anybody who's listening, to check your mental health, you know, every day on a daily basis. You know, look yourself in the mirror. Look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself things. Affirmate to yourself. You know, I am good enough. You know, I do matter. I do deserve to be successful at things. I deserve to be loved. You know what I'm saying? It's all beneficial to your mental health. Just affirm yourself. You are okay. You are all right. You are enough. So many times we think of ourselves as not enough or inadequate, and a lot of times that's just in our heads. So we need to get out of our own heads. And speaking of getting out of my own head, this week at my therapy appointment, that's right, I go to therapy, which I'll start chronicling that also. This week at my therapy was actually very good. I had a good conversation with my therapist. It was, there was crying and gnashing of teeth, but it was very good. I was able to get a lot of things out, you know, or at least start to get them out. Because like I said, I just kind of started with this. And to start really getting these things out, like we just finished up all the paperwork, and started actually getting into some things. So we talked, and she actually gave me some homework this week, which is pretty much the same homework I just told you guys about, which is affirmate. You know, affirmate yourself. You know, give yourself different affirmations, different positive affirmations. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. To just go ahead and affirmate yourself. Just give yourself the praise and the positive, you know, the positive energy that you deserve. We can't stay, you know, tucked down in this negative energy all the time. You know, it drives us crazy. It drives us crazy, literally. So, and also, she told me to, as another part of the homework, is to start doing things. She asked me, you know, are there things that you don't do anymore that you used to love to do? Absolutely. There's plenty of things that I don't do anymore that I did, you know, that I used to do every day that I just simply don't do anymore. And one of the homework assignments was to start doing some of those things. One of those things was writing and doing comedy and things of that nature. And she said, start writing this week. Start back writing. Write something down. Write something this week. And I've written things. I've started writing things. You know, it was a little hard to sit down and kind of force myself a little bit, but I'm taking medication to help me do those things. So, but I did sit down and write some things. I wrote some funny things. I wrote some serious things. I wrote some affirmations. I just wrote, which made me feel good. It made me feel better. You know, I felt some sort of accomplishment. I felt that same feeling I used to feel when I wrote something that I was proud of. When I wrote a good joke or something like that. So it was very positive, and I have continued. I have a book that I got. I forgot. It was a gift, or I found it somewhere. I don't know. It was a book called 500 Writing Prompts, and it's a cheap book. I think you can actually get it at like a bookstore like Barnes & Noble or something like that, Books A Million or something. I don't know. But I think you can get these books, and it was 500 writing prompts, and it's such a good book because it just gives you little things, just little thoughts to help you start writing about something. It'll be like, tell us about the time, tell us about your senior prom. What did you wear and who did you take, and how did it go? Stuff like that. And you write about it, and it helps you remember stuff, and it helps you remember who you are. If you don't write, I strongly suggest that you do, because it's a good way to go back and look at your thoughts, to go back and look at also how much you have matured. It is a very good way to look at that. So that is how my therapy appointment went. So again, for the mental health check, folks, just ask yourself, stand in the middle, not in the middle, but stand in the mirror and stand there and ask yourself and tell yourself, I love you, man. I love you. And don't just, be general. I love you, be specific about what it is. I love that you are a nice person. I love that you like to help other people. I love that you like to go home and cook for your mother. And just positive things about yourself, and those things help. So I want to give some shout outs this week. I got 2 shout outs this week. Really excited about this first one, which I think is great. Big fan of Eddie Murphy, and it is official. They are shooting Beverly Hills Cop 4. It is officially filming. So I'm anxious to see what happens with Axel Foley. To see the next chapter. I loved all 1, 2, and 3. They were all good movies, very, very good. 3 wasn't so much, but Beverly Hills, the first one was great. So I'm expecting it to be pretty good. And also shout out to Eddie Murphy anyway, because he's been making a solid comeback in recent years. My mother actually had a movie on not too long ago with him in it, where it wasn't a comedy, it was a serious movie. It was called Mr. Church, and it was about a guy who cooked for this family because he got paid to by some rich guy who died, and this was his mistress and her kid. So he ended up taking care of her and taking care of their kid until he passed away. And it was a pretty good movie. I mean, it was definitely another side of Eddie Murphy. If you have not seen it, you should definitely check it out. It's called Mr. Church. But even still, in recent, Ed has been hustling again. Dolomite Is My Name was my shit. That was a great movie about Rudy Ray Moore. And if you haven't seen that, check it out. I think it was on Amazon, I believe. I'm not sure. But I think it was on Amazon. But listen, if you haven't seen that, and then Coming to America just came back out, listen, shout out to Eddie Murphy for getting it cracking again. Thanks, Ed, because we definitely need some laughter. We definitely need some more laughter, and who better to give it to us than one of the greats. So, and I got another shout out to, and this shout out goes to somebody you probably won't notice. Maybe you might, but a lot of you probably won't know this lady. Maybe you heard the story, but there was a mother in Montgomery County, Maryland, who just had a settlement. She just got a settlement for $275,000 after police put her 5-year-old child in handcuffs and in the back of their squad car, and then began to threaten the child and yell at the child and berate the child. And child's fucking 5. You guys is grown ass men, handcuffing a child, man. Come on, man. So, long story short, she was awarded $275,000 for pain and suffering, or whatever it was. But, I just wanted to give her a shout out and say, yeah, man, a lot of these cops, they need to start recognizing, man. Cops need to start recognizing you guys you're not Jesus. You're regular people, man. You are flawed. You are not perfect. And not for nothing, I will tell you this. Don't let a cop fucking fool you, man. A lot of these motherfuckers break the law too. I just read a story where a cop just turned himself in because he killed a couple in their home. Murdered them in their home. A cop. So miss me with all that cop shit. Miss me with all that Blue Lives Matter shit. You know what I mean? Yes, of course they do, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying defund the police, but there's some things that need to happen with the police force. First let's start with demilitarize the police. I think that's what needs to happen. Instead of defund the police, let's not defund the police. Let's demilitarize the police. Because right now it's just, that's what it is. It's the military. They the Gestapo. They got tanks. The police department has a tank. They have tanks. What do you need a tank for? You're a cop. You're just a cop. You're not a soldier. You're a cop. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Shout out to Shanta, not Santa, Shanta Grant, mother in Montgomery County, Alabama. Congratulations on your $275,000 settlement. So, Dope Shit Award, folks. Moving right along to the Dope Shit Award. I saw this on NPR, and I do think this is so dope right here. The Obamas went back to Michelle and Barack, the former president and first lady, went back to the White House this week for the official, for the unveiling of their official portraits. And I just want to say, I saw them, and they look amazing. They like the president's, the president, his looks like a photograph. Whoever painted that picture is an incredible artist because it looks like an actual photograph. And they captured everything about him. They captured, everything about him. His seriousness, his humor in one portrait. It's just a portrait of him smiling. But also the first lady's picture, her picture was very elegant. She was in a blue dress, a strapless blue dress, sitting on what looked like a chaise lounge, and dressed very nicely. And I think there was some White House preservation, something that said that the photographs were unorthodox and unconventional. Well, so the fuck what? So what do you want to stand up looking like some sort of fuddy-duddy? No, not at all. And not for nothing, they add a little flair and a little flavor to the White House. And this is one thing that I think is great. Well, this is the first time, just so you know, this is the first time that the Obamas have been back to the White House in 10 years since Donald Trump was president. And the reason why they haven't been back is because Donald Trump did not have the unveiling, the presidential portrait unveiling during his presidency. I wonder why. Probably fucking hater, but it's all right. It is what it is. It is what it is. But I think that it was absolutely great. I think that it was absolutely great that these people, were able, these black people, first of all, were able to become the president and first lady. But when you think about the White House, right? The White House was built by slaves. And not until the other day were there portraits of two black people in a building that should have had every slave's portrait in that building. So that's what I think the dopest part about it is that all these years later, it took all these years, but finally, a house that was never meant for black people to be involved in now has, a black person and the first a black president and first lady. Their portraits hang proudly in the White House. So that is today's Dope Shit Award. Today's Ear Budz, I'm kind of scrambling around with the Ear Budz but I did manage to listen to some things. I'm not sure. I listen to a lot of older music, but not necessarily like popular music. I listen to a wide variety of genres, and so this genre right here, you may not be necessarily familiar with, but if you are, then you'll know who I'm talking about. But if you aren't, this probably would be a good group to start off with, to kind of get your feet wet, to kind of, because they are actually really, really just a great group. And the group is, the genre is drum and bass. And the group is called London Elektricity. And I started listening to them maybe 10 or 12 years ago, maybe even longer. And they're amazing. Now, drum and bass has its roots in hip hop. You know, it's very, very heavy. Like, well, it's drum and bass music, but the cadences can be a little faster. But a lot of the music is very ambient. Some of it can be a little harder, but a lot of the music is very ambient. But it's very up-tempo, ambient styled music. Like I said, if you are not familiar, I'm probably not doing a really good job explaining it. But if you're not familiar, I definitely invite you to go and listen to it. The album I wanted to highlight was an album called Syncopated City. And it has a wide variety of different styles of drum and bass music, from hard to soft to ambient, just really, really just all over the place. But a lot of the music it makes you think. It takes you places. It definitely takes, well, music takes you places to begin with, but it's almost like a surreal place that it takes you to, not something of the norm. And yeah, my air conditioner just kicked off. Oh yeah, folks, I'm still in my RV, by the way. But I encourage everybody to definitely check out the London Elektricity drum and bass group, and there's a few other groups. And what I usually do and this is how I did it, is, I liked some other drum and bass artists, and I went to Pandora and I just put it in, and then it gave me a bunch of different drum and bass artists, and I started listening to their music, and that's how I really kind of got into the genre, because I produce music. So hearing the way that the people who produce this type music, hearing how they produce the music intrigued me a lot. So I sat down and kind of, dug into it a little bit. And eventually it is a genre of music that I would like to touch upon myself as I strive to be a better producer or music maker. And I just want to add, some drum and bass to my repertoire. So today's Ear Budz, again, is the drum and bass group called London Elektricity. Yeah, so moving right along, I'm just going to keep it moving. I'll take a break here in a minute. But first, I wanted to tell you guys about the strain of the week. Now, usually the strain of the week, I kind of touch on it a little bit, but this one kind of did the number. And the strain of the week is called Caesar, not to be confused with Julius Caesar, which there's a strain of that also. But it's just straight, regular Caesar. It is an indica dominant hybrid, and but it doesn't feel like an indica. It doesn't really put you out. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't really feel like an indica. The buds are really dense. I like that. I like dense buds. I don't like buds that are, they're big but they're airy. And when you break it up, it's just not a whole lot. It's just so much air. And I like this because you can take a small bud and break it up, and it breaks up into like, wow, you might have to put a little bit back. So, and that helps with conservation, and I like conservation. It smells sour. It has a skunky, kind of cat pissy, but in a good way smell. It's got a long-lasting head high. I did notice that it lasts for a long time. And you definitely know it's touching your ass. You know it's touching you. Now, this is one thing I really don't really get into, but this is the lineage, and this is just kind of peaked. It really kind of it answered a lot of questions about the strain for me, because the lineage, when you hear, it's just, I mean, you get it, So it's lots of great strains from Skunk Number 1, the original skunk weed, the original Skunk Number 1, and then there's Gorilla Glue, some Sour Diesel, Chem Dog, Northern Lights, Las Vegas Kush, Indigo Diamonds, and really, honestly, there's just too many to name, too many strains in the lineage to name, and it really just makes for a really awesome strain. So if you're able to get it, just regular Caesar, I would wholeheartedly pick that up. On a scale from 1 to 10, I give it a solid 8.5 to 9. And if you, like I said, if you can, look and see if you can find it. If you're able to find it, I would wholeheartedly suggest in getting it. So that will do it for this week's Strain of the Week. I'm going to take a couple of seconds and take a break really fast. And when I come back, we'll get into what's popping this week. You are listening to the Deron Harris Podcast. People.
Stream all episodes of Only Murders in the Building. Seasons 1 and 2 now on Hulu.
Hey folks, welcome back to the podcast. Yep, what's popping this week? I'm going to tell you what's popping this week. Cut the shit. That's what's popping this week. You know what I mean? And people say, what do you mean? So, okay, there's a few different things I want to go over. Okay. The first thing I mean by cut the shit is get real with yourself. Just get honest with you, man. Just about everything in your life. Get honest with you. If you have some insecurities, stand and acknowledge those insecurities. If you have some shortcomings, stand and acknowledge those shortcomings. You know what I'm saying? Get real with yourself. Get rid of all the negative connotations that prevent you from doing stuff, that prevent you from excelling and having the life that you want to have. You have to get real with your actual self, not somebody else getting real with you, because that doesn't really work. You have to be the one to turn the mirror around on yourself. It can't be somebody else telling you, hey, man, you need to get real with yourself, man. You need to do this because you know what we all do. Yeah, whatever. And then we keep it pushing. But when we turn the mirror on ourselves and we're the one giving ourselves this tongue lashing or this critiquing or whatever it is, that's when we have a tendency to get a little more honest with ourselves. So the first thing I want to say is get real and get honest with you. 2 is get rid of the polluted environment. You know what I'm saying? Get real with yourself. If your health is suffering, that's because you are. It is a polluted environment inside you. Correct that. There's so much stuff that we eat that affect how we feel, our moods, and and all kinds of things that prevent us, that make us depressed, that keep us from really living our actual lives. So we have to fight the polluted environment, and that starts within yourself. So, maybe you don't eat healthy every day, but maybe you could turn around and eat something. At least start. I know for me that once I changed, my diet, and I haven't changed it 100%. I'm not perfect, but I have changed it significantly. And I will say, I'm 52 years old. I feel great. I feel really good. I'm going to the doctor now to try and get 100% healthy. I'm going for, some mental health issues that I'm having, and I'm also going for some physical issues that I'm having. But, I'm getting back some really positive, feedback from the doctors when I go visit. And I attribute that to changing or trying to change the polluted environment inside myself. So, and lastly, in this particular category with get real with yourself is start finishing what you start. Simple. Finish what you start. If you start something, if you pick it up, finish it. Sometimes I know it gets to be hard. People pick up shit all the time, and they start doing it, and they realize it gets hard. They're like, you know what? I think I'm going to come back to this, and they never come back to it. I'm guilty. But as of recently, I have been giving it the college try of finishing the things that I start, whether it's something that I'm writing, whether it's a beat that I'm making, or something that I'm cooking. Well, I hope that I finish what I start when I'm cooking. But, cleaning the house, feeding and walking the dogs, whatever it is, I try and finish what I start. Now, like I said, I ain't perfect. I haven't cleaned the car like my wife wants me to, but to my defense, I haven't started cleaning it yet. So once I start cleaning the car, you can rest assured that I will damn sure finish it. So finish what you start. So what's next after get real with yourself? It is your surroundings. And that's important also. How to clean your life. This is how to clean your life. This is how to cut the shit out of your life. 1, clean your house. Start right there. Clean your house. Look at all the stuff in your house. If it's broke, throw that shit out. What are you holding it for? If it's got holes in it, throw that shit out. What are you holding it for? If things are stagnant in your house, one thing that always worked for me when I felt trapped or, when I felt stagnant in the house, what I did is I would move furniture around or move my house around just to get a different perspective. Just to change things around, switch it up a little bit, move my bed to the other side of the room or move the couch around or whatever it is. Change the pictures on the wall, whatever it is. Change your way of thinking. Cut out like the bullshit ways of thinking that we're all guilty of. And I'm not saying that you got to do it like cold turkey because nobody can. This is all going to creep back in. But if we know about it and we can give it, a little bit of brain power, we can acknowledge that we know about it, we can think about it, then maybe we can move towards it. You know what I'm saying? Also, when is the last time you wore that shit? If you haven't worn something in a year, chances are you're probably never going to wear it again. Now, I'm guilty of that also. I have shit I've been lugging around for 5, 6, 7 years, 10 years. I have underwear, honestly, that I've had for 10 years. And I just don't want to throw them shits away. I don't know why. I just don't want to throw them away. But I got to part with that shit. For a couple of reasons. Like I said, we have scaled down. We have scaled all the way down. We moved into a motorhome. So there's not a lot of space in here. It's space for just the things that we need. Just our necessities. The necessities of me and my wife and the necessities of our dogs. And that's it. We don't need a coffee table, We don't need, an armoire or a dresser, a chest of drawers or anything like that. We don't need any of that. We don't need a canopy bed. We don't need any of that. All that stuff just creates more stuff to worry about. And all that stuff is, if you go back and chalk it up, how much money do you spend on that stuff anyway? It's a lot of stuff, and you can't take it with you. At the end of the day, really, and I know they say it, and I know you've heard it, you can't take it with you. You know what I'm saying? So, and of course, don't get me wrong, there's some things worth having. There's some things worth keeping. There's some sentimental value to some things, but there are things that are worth having. But, if you look at a lot of things in your house, especially if you shop at like IKEA or some bullshit, or if you're in college or some dumb shit like that, look at your furniture. Look at the shit that look at your shit. If it's broken, throw that shit out. Declutter, man. Clean your life. Clean your life. That's the whole reason that my wife and I moved into this RV, was to clean our life. We were getting bogged down with rent and, the job market and, pollution and traffic and, people's attitudes and, which contributes to a lot of mental health issues, which unfortunately have, shown up on my doorstep. But, we decided this. We decided, and I'll tell you what, all the help that I'm getting, everything that I could not have gone through this where I was at, which, brings me to my next point is move. Move. Get the fuck on. Move. If if it's too bothersome and there's too much clutter around you, around your surroundings, sometimes it's better to remove yourself from it. Sometimes it's better to just remove yourself. Get away for a little while. That is another reason that we bought an RV, because both of us are city dwellers and we both know that we love the city. Can't never take it out of us. But sometimes you definitely need a break from it. You need to go away from it and kind of recharge, not necessarily recharge, but give yourself an opportunity to miss it a little bit. And I'm a big fan of that. So we moved. And the thing about an RV is if we don't like it here, we can move again. So always trying to clean our lives. And that's what it is. Trying to cut it out of my life. Which brings me to my next point, social and personal life. And number one, first, fuck Facebook. It's okay to fuck Facebook and Instagram and all that other shit. It's okay to unfriend people. And I know people, and again, I'm guilty. I used to be a nightclub promoter. I have thousands of friends on my Facebook. How many of these people do I actually know? You know what I'm saying? Cut the shit. These people don't know me, and I don't know them. Why are you on my friends list? There's so many things that come across my feed from, some people that used to be in my life. And you know what I do with that? I cut the shit. I don't need you in my life. So, whatever time we had, whatever was the time we had. You know what I'm saying? I'm not turning around and backtracking and going back. When's the last time we fucking spoke? You know what I'm saying? When's the last time you wished me happy birthday? When's the last time I wished you happy birthday? And it's okay to cut me out too. It is quite all right to cut me out of your life if I serve no purpose in it, because I'm just taking up space. Taking up space in your mind that really you don't have. And that was one thing. That's one thing I'm famous for. Then this is how I do it. And this is a good way to do it too. If sometimes I don't know who. Listen, look at the birthdays. Go to birthdays in Facebook. Go to the birthdays. Every day it tells you, it's this person's birthday. Sometimes it's 6 motherfuckers' birthday at the same time. And I've ran into this. 6 people's birthday at the same time. I don't know any of those 6 people. Why are you here? I don't even recognize you guys. Where have we been together? What have we done? And have you tagged me anything? And then sometimes you can go back and trace back where you know people from. Sometimes they're old, boyfriends and girlfriends that serve no purpose. They're just taking up space because you never got around to, cleaning your life, cutting the shit. That's one thing I know for me. If I just cut the shit out, if you don't enrich my life, I try and cut the shit out. Now, as far as my social media accounts go, I try and grow them organically, but like I said, I was an entertainer for a long time, and also a nightclub promoter and manager. So I do have people that, I promoted parties to, and so on and so forth, and that's why I have so many people. But I don't do that anymore, and these people definitely don't come to any of my parties. They're not my friends. They don't wish me happy birthday. They don't, nothing. I got married recently. How many people commented? How many people said congratulations? How many people didn't? How many people that you thought were your friends aren't really your friends? You don't really know them at all. How many people do you come across that you were friends with a long time ago that you just aren't anymore? I have 2 friends that were best friends in high school, and they act like they don't even know each other now. And I'm in the middle of that. It's weird, but it's the way that it happens. Sometimes it's necessary to trim that fat, to cut those things out of your life. And that right there, my friends, is the definition of peace. When you can cut all that stuff and not look back at it like you've lost something. You know what I'm saying? We got a storage unit full of shit that could stay right where it's at. Because being here where I'm at now in our 30-foot Class A RV, being here in this RV has taught me exactly what I need. It's taught me exactly what I need and exactly what I don't need, all the way down to the food in my refrigerator. Cut the shit. If I ain't going to eat it right now, I don't get it. I don't spend money on it. How much food do we waste by buying shit and we keep it and we don't really eat it, and a day or two goes by and then all of a sudden it's bad? Cut the shit. Get clear. You know what I'm saying? Get clear on what it is you want from your life, and then take everything else that is an obstruction away. The best you can. I mean, that's what I'm doing. That's one of the reasons I go to therapy, is to take away the obstructions that are in my life that are hindering me from doing what it is that I really would like to do. That's going to do it for What's Poppin'. I'm going to take a break again really fast. When I come back, relationship goals. You are listening to the Deron Harris Podcast.
At Marshall's, our buyers hustle every day for the brands you love. Tell me about the leather booties. Is that crystal? Silk? At that price? You've got a deal. With great deals always in store, come in and get more of the good stuff. Marshall's, get the good stuff.
Hey folks, welcome back. Welcome back for the last segment of the podcast, which is, ironically enough, this is probably one of my favorite sections. You know, I don't elaborate on it much. It's really more for me, but you can absolutely follow along with me with your person if you choose to. It definitely has helped us, you know, and it's good for both of us because we both keep each other in the front of each other's minds. You know, we're right here in the front of each other's minds all the time. So, you know, I'm always people say, "Oh, that's corny." You can say what you want to about me. You know, I'm trying to create a great marriage, you know, a stellar marriage, not just a great marriage. I'm trying to create the most incredible marriage that marriage has ever seen. And for me, this is part of it. So last week's goals were to explore more with my wife. That was the goal. And the results of this week were, we did exactly that. We went and explored a brand new city. She had a doctor's appointment. She got which was kind of cool because we were able to do this anyway, because she had a doctor's appointment and her doctor gave her a referral to another doctor that was in another town, like an hour and a half away from here, it was Jacksonville, Florida. And I was familiar with Jacksonville when I was younger. In 1988, I graduated high school and I went to the Navy, and I went to the MEPS station in Jacksonville. Before that was where I was deployed to boot camp, was from Jacksonville. And a buddy of mine, actually my producer, and we used to, when we were younger, we used to run around Jacksonville and underage drink, sneak into clubs and act like we were grown people. But we pulled it off good. But that's all I really knew about Jacksonville. I think I've been to Jacksonville Beach like one time, and I wasn't super impressed with it, so I never really went back to it. But we did go back to Jacksonville. We went to Jacksonville, and we kind of drove around the city for a few minutes, and we have determined that we don't like Jacksonville. I'm sorry, Jacksonville. I'm sure the people are wonderful. You guys are, I love you, whatever, but you know, I don't know who's in charge of your city or whatever it is. They need to get it together, man. I'm sorry. They just need to get it together. It seemed to me like it was run down a little bit, but you know, we did take a couple of minutes to explore our surroundings and see where we were. And not for nothing, we did some other stuff too. We went and explored a state park. There's a state park there. Actually, there's lots of state parks. I mean, there's lots of state parks here, but we went and checked out a state park. You know, that was a preserve that is untouched land, and it's a giant forest. And, man, I think it's the Osceola National Forest. You know, they hunt out there. It's all kinds of like, you know, watch out for this animal sign on the road, all kinds of that shit. So bears, deers, you know, everything is out there. So, but it was very, very beautiful and very quiet. The air was very clean. And we talked, and kind of got into nature a little bit, and she was just, like I said, I had been through here before, but she had never been through here, and she enjoyed it very much. She enjoyed being close to nature. She is even though she's a city girl, she does like, being out in nature and going out and exploring and being outdoors. So it was very good for her. So, and it was very good for me as well. So that was last week's goals and results. So what are this week's goals? This week's goals, I thought about it while we were there a couple of days ago, but this week's goals is probably going to take both of us to do it. It's definitely going to take both of us. Most of these things I kind of do on my own accord, but I can't do this next one by myself. I can't formulate it by myself. Like I can formulate a good time out or, whatever it is, a place to eat. I can formulate all of that. But this next one, I'm definitely going to have her help for it because it definitely involves the two of us. So this week's goal is to start constructing a real solid plan for our future and our marriage. What are we going to do? Like the 5-year goal, the 10-year goal, so on and so forth. What goals are we setting for ourselves in our marriage? Whether it be financially, spiritually, emotionally, whatever it is, what goals are we setting in our marriage and what plan do we have? And if we don't have a plan, this is where we start constructing a solid plan for our lives and our future. And this motorhome was part of that plan. And I'm happy to say that we have executed phase 1 of the plan. But the plan is something that is always changing, that is always growing. It should be growing. It should be growing exponentially. It should be growing. You should expect that from your plan, to grow your plan, or the plans change, but always have a contingency, or plans change for the better. You might have a better idea. So that's why it's very important to sit down and make time to plan things. Talk. Sit down and talk. People, man, I can't stand being around. Like it when they don't talk. No, man, talk. Sit down. Look into each other's eyes. Talk. Have conversation. Don't talk about just sex. Don't talk about just bullshit. Talk about politics. Talk about religion. Talk to your person. Talk finances. That's one thing. My wife is a financial analyst. And one thing that's, that I don't like to talk about a lot is finances. But she's been forcing me, not really forcing me, but making me more interested or more intrigued in constructing or talking more about finances and constructing a solid financial plan, as well as other plans in our marriage. So that is this week's goal. And I'm going to get on that probably, it's my mother's birthday. Shout out to my mom's also. It's my mama's birthday this weekend. So I'm going to go into this weekend very happy. I'm going to see all my brothers and sisters that I haven't seen in a little while. So get to see our family. That's going to be great. That's good for the soul also. So I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Deron Harris Podcast. Thank you very much for joining me, and thank you very much for tuning in every week. Oh, I want to say this also. I was in a Facebook group, and there were some people talking about full-time RV living, and there were a lot of people that had a lot of negative things to say, and I just want to say if there's anybody that has anything negative to say about it or they don't understand it, contact me. I mean, you can come on the podcast and I can explain some things to you, or you can let me know what you don't understand, because we still don't understand a lot about it also because we're new at it, but we want to understand and we want to learn and we don't want to alienate people out, and I just, there was a lot of hostile remarks on the thread. But what I will say is that there were a lot of people, some who had RVs and some who didn't. That's, we're basically just like, don't knock people for what they choose, man. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But don't knock people for what their choices are. Some guy was like, these things fall apart in 5 years. It's a poor plan. It's not. It's worked for some people. It's worked great for a lot of people. And that's why a lot of people are doing it. And that's why it's gaining more popularity. So, I'm not trying to be the, move into an RV advocate. But, hey, man, I'm not going to tell you not to. You know, I'm not going to be like, oh, no, that's not for you. That's bullshit. I'm not going to do that. So if you have any questions about it, like I said, you know, DM me. Yeah, and I think that's probably going to do it for this week's episode of the Deron Harris Podcast. Again, I would like to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to thank my wife for being inspirational and lighting the fire under my ass for me to keep doing this and getting back on the horse after the move. I want to thank my best friend and producer, Jesse Yandel, or Jay Yandel. And I also want to thank my other friend and producer, Gentry Thomas, for giving me the opportunity to voice my opinions on my podcast. If you would like to follow me on social media, you can look me up. My name is Deron, Deron Harris, Harris. My middle initial is T. So it's either going to be T or it's going to be my middle name, which is Terae, Terae. I think on Instagram it's Deron T. Harris Comedian, and Facebook is Deron Terae Harris, and Twitter is at Deron Harris, and that is again Deron Harris. So, all right, folks, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Deron Harris Podcast. Please tune back in next week. I'm not sure what I'm going to be talking about. They say give you a teaser for next week, but I don't even know for 1 minute to the next one we'll be talking about, so tune back in anyway. I'm sure I'll be talking about, oh yeah, this is what I wanted to talk about. Next week, I think I'm going to be talking about road rage, because motherfuckers is crazy on the road, man. They're wild out here. People are dying left and right. So I'm going to be talking about it next week on the podcast. So if you are, if you're around, or if you ain't got no plans, tune in, check me out, and listen to my podcast. Thank you very much, and you guys have a solid week.